And we're live. What's up? I'm Matt Latham, board certified master arborist and tree expert, and registered consulting arborist, tree risk assessment qualified, tree plant appraisal qualified. Tree expert and registered consulting arborist. Oh, that's your. I'm hearing feedback from you. And I got Lucas on the line with me here. His sound is also becoming my sound. And we're here to talk about your tree questions. Thank you for so much for being a part of this group and a part of this community. This is Ask an Arborist and Arborist on Demand and LinkedIn and YouTube. And we're on Facebook and Instagram and all that good jazz. And I'm so sorry I'm running late, you guys, but we've had some fun little audio visual type issues. We got it all worked out. We're ready to rock and roll. And I just wanted to just go over a brief little announcement. We are into fall. Now, I woke up and it was whole 47 degrees this morning. It was awesome. I walked outside and I'm like, thank God it's not 80 here in Houston, Texas. And some of y'all up north have been playing around with this fall weather for like weeks or even months. And but we here down in Houston, we've been suffering with 80, 90 degree weather. And man, what a joy. What a gorgeous morning to wake up to this morning. I was on para patrol on our at my son's homeschool co-op. And oh my goodness, I just sat outside underneath the big oak tree and just enjoyed it. Got some work done, got a couple reports done, et cetera, et cetera. And what a just beautiful day here in Houston. So that brings up a really good point is we are into fall, you guys. I just wanted to talk to you about a couple of different things that you want to watch out for, because this is a golden opportunity, a wonderful time to get outdoors and start taking care of a couple things, taking a look at some things. And so first of all, let's talk about watering, because a lot of people think that, well, the tree's sleeping. It doesn't need water. It's dormant. It's unalived or whatever. And a lot of people forget to water. But here's the thing is your roots typically are still going to be active and growing. Now, if you live in the great north and you've got, permafrost type conditions in the soil, the ground freezes, that is not the case. However, for the rest of the world, which is most of us, your roots are still going to be growing. So it's important to water. Now, you don't have to water nearly as much, but it is important. Let's say every 2 weeks or so, give it a good deep watering, maybe a good 30 minutes or an hour of irrigation, or maybe a couple 4 hours of soaker hose type irrigation. You don't have to go overboard. And of course, if you've got trees that are more susceptible to cold, you especially want to give them a nice, good drink 24 to 48 hours before a big freeze, because some of y'all I know are going to be freezing this time of year. And I'm actually going to be in Milwaukee next week, and I know exactly what to expect. So water, that's number one. Number two is, let's say you had some trees and they were dealing with some foliar fungus or some sort of fungal issue, or maybe it's a bug or something chewing on the leaves or a borer. Well, a lot of those guys are actually going to lay their eggs on the leaves. Now, this is wonderful news, because here's the thing, all those leaves are falling down to the ground. They're much easier to access. You don't have to go up, climbing up in the tree and pull them off and get rid of the fungus yourself. They're all falling down for you. So this is a great time. You can actually rake those leaves if you had fungus or pests. Now, if you don't, it's always best actually to leave them on the ground, let them decompose. That's going to feed the microbes, feed the soil. But if you did have some foliar fungus or pest issues, it's a great time to go ahead and rake them up, bag them out, send them off to the mulch yard, and let that be just a part of the process. That'll help to isolate a lot of those pests and pathogens and keep them off your tree for the next growing season. The other thing I want you to do is go outside and look. Now, as the leaves fall, this is going to expose all of those branches and that full canopy, and you can get a much clearer view of what's going on. So if you see some things like really weak branch unions, those are V-shaped branch unions. Those are going to be really weak. The grains are all growing kind of the same direction versus a U-shaped branch union. You know, do this right here. This is a strong branch union. This is not a strong branch union. So if you've got things like that, you're going to be able to see them a lot easier now and be able to adjust accordingly. So if you do see those weak branch unions, maybe you see some like fungal decay pathogens are attacking, especially the top side of the limb. You want to go ahead and get those addressed by a certified arborist. And of course, if you want a second opinion or a closer look, I'm always happy to help myself. I run a company called Arborist on Demand, and we do digital tree care consulting. And so we can always look at it no matter where you are on the interwebs. I'll go ahead and drop the link here in just a second. But yeah, we'd love to help you out if you need help with your trees. And we, like I said, we work all over this planet at this point, mostly in the United States here. But I got a bunch of Canadian clients, bunch of Australian clients, a handful of UK and Irish clients, Scotland, like all over the place. It's crazy how connected this interweb stuff gets us. So super cool. We can look at your trees no matter where you are. And I'd love to help you out if we can. But hey, what's up, Sprout? Thanks for joining us, buddy. We've got some cool answers that you're going to want to stick around for because or cool questions rather. But yeah, so that's the other thing is just go outside and first of all, enjoy the weather and take a look at your trees. Mistletoe is another one of those that we don't talk about enough, but it is a partially parasitic plant. It's not an epiphyte like your orchid plants or your resurrection ferns, anything like that. It's an actual partially parasitic tree plant. It does take up it produces its own carbohydrates and photosynthase because it has a leaf. It is a plant. It does photosynthesize, so where it takes carbon dioxide and water and then uses the sun's rays to produce those sugars. But all of the other resources, the water, the micro and macronutrients, things like that, it's actually going to root into your tree and steal from the tree. So mistletoe, by the way, the word itself comes from mistel and tong. This is old Saxon English Saxon. It basically means like ton is on a stick and mistel is feces. So the literal translation of mistletoe is feces or dung or crap or whatever you want to call it on a stick. So if you got that in your tree, get that crap out of here, y'all. You want to make sure to prune it out. There's some really cool ways to get rid of it. And actually, let me go ahead and post this here because this is really cool stuff. And it's one of those that I wish everybody knew this because there's a cool guy named Raul out of Texas A&M University here in Texas. And he came up with a method to get rid of it permanently. The old school trick was to wrap a black plastic bag over it, and that blocks the plant's ability to photosynthesize. But if you've got mistletoe and you spray it, you remove it first of all, and then you spray that wound with a water-based latex paint, then it actually will stop the tree from, why is it not letting me? Hold on. It'll stop that plant from being able to photosynthesize, give the plant what it needs, and eventually it pops off. What I found is about 80% of it unalives completely the first year. And then after that, you get the remaining of it if you do it one more time. So it's a really, really neat trick. And this Christmas tradition is slowly unaliving your trees. So I'm going to go ahead and post that video here as well. And we got some cool questions to go over, you guys. So let's take a look at it. By the way, for those of you new to this group, we really appreciate y'all being here. This is Ask an Arborist, and we've been at this for what, Lucas? About 6 months now or so, give or take, that we've been almost a year now. So yeah, we started this group about a year ago, give or take. And we really we didn't do anything with it. We kind of sat it out there and said, hey, if you got tree questions, come answer. We'll come send them over here our way. We'll answer them. Is it okay for native grapevines to grow on a tree? And questions just like this one, they just came in from Sprouting Arborist. Is it okay for native grapevines to grow on a tree? Yes and no, I guess would be my answer is yes, it's okay for a native grapevine to grow in the forest. No, it's not okay for it to grow in your personal private tree. It is going to stress it out, usually in the form of blocking the leaves of the tree from being able to photosynthesize themselves. And that can create real serious problems when it comes to the overall health. So yeah, if you see it in your tree, go ahead and get rid of it. It's not like one of those that it's just going to be the end all be all and game over, man. Tree's just going to unalive overnight. but it's certainly worth getting it out of there if you just love that tree and want it to be healthy and thriving. So hope that helps, buddy. And then here's part 2. I think I put part 1. Yeah, that's it. All right. So yeah, if you see it, like if it's growing in the forest, Sprout, I wouldn't worry about it. It's native. The environment's gotten used to it by now, but we have been exploding in growth on this channel. We started out with I think it was 625 like 6 months ago or so, and now we're up to over 3,800. So we were, for a time there, we were growing by like 350 to 400 people per week, and it got a little out of hand. It started like blowing up, and it was super cool. Now we're getting into slow season, and thank God for that, because I'm just one guy, y'all. I can't handle it all. Yeah, it hadn't climbed yet. Yeah, just keep it on the ground if you can. That's okay. Just keep it out of your personal trees. If it's in the forest, it's really not a big deal. But and again, the forest has gotten used to it at this point, so not a big deal, Sprout. But yeah, 3,800 members, y'all. This is crazy. We didn't ask for that, but y'all have been so awesome about not only a lot of you guys asking your great questions, but a lot of real, true tree pros and some not so not so professional pros have come on here, and we've really just created a really neat community. So glad to have you guys, and let's go ahead and get right into our questions. Where are the questions? There we go. First one comes from Joya, Mrs. Cooper. And she's got a sick tree question. What's wrong with the bottom of my trees? I just cleared brush that was behind it. Will the bottom section? I got a different one. It was Gerardo Herrera. Really? Yeah, right under featured. What on earth is? Single stump 20-inch palm tree that is cut down to a flat stump died completely. All right, let's check it out. Yeah, it's new post. I'm telling you, there's a big conspiracy. What's up, dude? That's amazing. Congratulations, Sprout. 100 subscribers. So Sprout and I both kind of started a little YouTube channel where we basically just teach people about trees. And congratulations, man. That's fantastic news. 100 is like a milestone number. So keep that up. I'm up to, I think, 726 right now, or 746. Yeah, 746. So, and it's getting pretty fun because we're getting kind of a snowball effect type of thing start to take place. But 254 more to go, and we meet the line to go monetize. But now we just need to get the time. Yeah, so we're about 254 away from hitting that 1,000 mark. So if you're new to this channel and you haven't found us over on the Tubes of You, head on over there. I'll go ahead and post that link too, because why not? Life's short, right? Hold on, don't need that. I need this. Here we go. View channel on YouTube's. I'll go ahead and drop that link here in just a second. As soon as I can figure out how to. So you're not getting the same one up yet, huh? No. All right, let's see here. That's different. Yeah, Lucas, if you could drop it in there, that'd be good. Let's move on to the questions, y'all. No, but for some reason, I'm not getting what you're getting. So it's making it difficult to tag. Like right under where it says write a post, and it says featured, there's a new post. So Gerardo Herrera, yesterday at 2:38 p.m. He has a question. I don't know. Maybe it'll show up further on down the line. Scroll up a little bit. There's nothing above it. That's it. There's. Look. What do you mean on my shirt? Huh? So like you just, man, everything is different. Like. I don't know what to tell you. We'll just go by what we can, and if there's ones we're missing, we'll adjust accordingly. But I think for now we just got to move on because it's clearly it's all screwy. So it's all sorts of screwy, y'all. But that's what happens when one company rules the world. Is They get to do whatever they want and get away with it. And their name is Meta. They're run by a lizard people named Mark. So, but that's all you'll hear me say about that. But anyways, yeah. Okay, let's move on to our questions, you guys. So Joya, Austin Cooper. I'm sorry, Gerard. We'll get to you hopefully later on as we go down the line. But
I had to skip up 4 people to get to where you're on.
That's crazy.
There's just so you know, there's Gerardo, there's an anonymous, and then another anonymous, and then another anonymous, and then Joya.
All right. Well, let's just go on down the line, and hopefully Gerard's will show up here in just a minute, and we'll get to it. But Joy is asking, what's wrong with the bottom of my trees? I just cleared the brush that was behind it. Will the bottom section grow back? Well, a couple things here, Joy. It's not a big deal. The leaves did not. Looks like arborvitae, maybe eastern red cedar or something like that. I think arborvitae is more like it. It could be, Thuja occidentalis. And it looks like you had maybe some maples growing down, or mulberry rather, growing back behind it, which is good for you for getting rid of that and clearing it out a little bit. That really helps those green evergreens thrive a little bit better. But the main thing is, no, they don't have the latent buds to actually produce new tissue on the areas that have unalived, if you will. And so that's not ideal. However, it's really not a big deal because that's a very, very small portion of the tree that's actually been doing that's actually unalived like that. So can they fill in and grow in eventually as the branches sweep down, but they won't actually produce buds that will produce new branches that grow directly from those points. So is it ideal? No, but give it time, Joya. That they'll fill in, I think. It'll just take a lot longer than if they were like a deciduous tree where they have those latent buds. Latent buds, by the way, are little buds that are hidden underneath the bark. So let me go ahead and draw this out for you guys. Is essentially you've got. Can y'all hear me all right? Because I've been playing around with this new little boom mic thingy that I got, and hopefully that's going to make it a little easier to hear me when I turn around and face not you. But you got a tree here. You got it. Here's your trunk, and underneath are all these millions or thousands or whatever it happens to be of latent buds. Now, these latent buds are what I call the in case of emergency buds. What they're designed to do is be there in case of emergency. They usually have a higher concentration of carbohydrates and sugars. Variation depresso. Okay, so it is in the juniper family. It's in the cedar family. So Sprout's saying that we got Juniperus communis, variation depressa, plenty common junipers under it can make it look neat like the dwarf variety, which is naturally occurring. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, so Sprout's got a pretty good idea, Joy, is you can actually place some other junipers underneath it, like some creeping varieties and or dwarf varieties, if you will. And that will give kind of a nice little sweeping, kind of almost a layered effect too. So that's a good idea. I really like that Sprout. Thanks for the suggestion. But back to latent buds. So on a deciduous tree, they all have these. On a palm, it doesn't have that. On a pine, it doesn't have that. On a cedar, it doesn't have that. Juniper is the same as cedar, by the way. Eastern white cedars. Eastern white cedars is not, that's not in the juniper family, though. Eastern white cedars, at least from what I know, is a common name that's usually in reference to Thuja occidentalis or those arborvitae. So if that's what you mean, I agree. To me, they look like arborvitae, but I could be wrong. I don't have I'm not looking at the DNA. Right. I'm not looking at it under a microscope. So looks like Thuja occidentalis. Yeah. So that's what I thought. Arborvitae is the southern word for it, if you will. Depends where you're at, anonymous, or excuse me, Joya, you got a name. So hope that helps, Joya. Unfortunately, no. But Sprout's got a pretty good idea. Maybe plant something underneath it. But best case, yeah, I think they're arborvitae. But again, it's so hard to tell. There's what 27,000 different varieties of trees and countless sub varieties from there. So it is what it is. But I'm not going to be able to identify everything. But fortunately, they got robots that can help. So, Joy, I think you've got some arborvitae trees. What you may want to do is put down a mulch layer that'll actually help to feed them, prevent those other weeds from coming back, all the brush that was behind it, and then just give you a nice looking Nice looking landscape there. So Michael's spot on. Yeah. Will the bottom of the trees fill back in? Thank you. That's a good question. May take time. Lay down a good native hardwood mulch layer to prevent weeds and help it through the winter. Hit it with microlife humates. Hey, that's a good point. Arborist on demand. My Shopify. And yeah, humates are going to be your best friend. Those are going to feed. First of all, humates are essentially, it's like composted compost. And so you've got like super concentrated carbon, basically. Carbon is the basic building block of life. If we were to cut down your tree and figure out what it's made of, dissect it and all that good jazz, it would be about 45% carbon, about 45% oxygen, which, by the way, comes from the air and comes from water, H2O. And so you've got oxygen, you got CO2, carbon dioxide. The rest of it's basically nitrogen in the air. So if somebody tells you need to pump your tree full of nitrogen, they just don't understand how air works. But that's a different story altogether. Because if you got the microbes to fix that nitrogen out of the air, then realistically, you're going to be just fine. Okay, I like that actually. Lauren, you can comment about aliens. That's hilarious. All right. I'll research it. Here we go. Check it out. There's your humates. Hey, and thanks so much, Michael. I appreciate you, buddy. All right, we're moving on. Patty's asking, hi, everybody, looking for advice and expert insight into a bamboo issue. It's been going on in my neighborhood. Last year, I filed a complaint with code enforcement because my neighbor's property had uncontrolled bamboo. She installed a plastic barrier to comply with the ordinance, but a year later, both my other neighbors, and I are dealing still with bamboo shoots popping up in our yards and roots growing toward our foundation. What's that? I don't know what to tell you. That was 3 hours ago, so that's real recent. Joya was like yesterday at 4:19. So thank God for Meta telling me what I need to be looking at instead of just doing it the way I asked, which was to, what is it? Oh, there it is. New posts, all topics. What's wrong with you, Meta? Mark Zuckerberg, stop trying to control me. But you're doing a pretty good job anyways. All right, so code enforcement is telling us to hire a bamboo expert to determine whether roots or rhizomes are originating from the original neighbor's property. But from what I understand, that might actually not be hard to prove. Patty, I'm just going to be straight with you. I think it is coming from your neighbors. I think they're jerks for insisting that they keep the invasive weed that is affecting everybody's. Now, here's the thing. I became a certified arborist in 2010. So that's 15 years of doing this. And about 3 years into my career, I learned something from my grandfather, who was not a certified arborist, who actually about a month after I became a certified arborist, shattered his wrist because he refused to let me prune the trees instead of him getting on a ladder and doing so. But he did a little research from some old school farmers, and he found that the best way to get rid of bamboo is to have two people involved. You want one person to cut the little sprout coming up from the rhizomes, and another person to paint straight Roundup directly onto the round, like the cutting, so the stalk of it where you cut it. What happens is that bamboo's natural defense is going to be able to pull everything away from that, suck it into the root system. So now you've used the tree's defense mechanisms against itself. And so you can have a much, much bigger, better, faster, harder, stronger, whatever you want to call it, result. So I can an expert actually determine where the bamboo originated? Yes. It's very possible. It's a little hard to prove it from one little rhizome. That's like tracing back a St. Augustine sprig and finding out where it originated from. Well, it's basically a big weed, but it's very possible. Is the barrier truly enough to contain it, or does it require full removal and root excavation to stop the spread? Yes. Number two, no, the barrier is not enough to contain it. The roots want to survive. The plant wants to survive. It's genetically programmed to keep living. What it's going to do is continue to grow and grow and grow. Roland, I disagree. Nothing personal, buddy. So we'll simply mowing your yard. That's not going to contain it, dude. not at all. Best time to kill it, unalive it, is in the fall before it goes dormant by cutting and brushing. Glyphosate, I think is what you mean. And I actually agree with that. I think that's your best bet, Patty, is you got to paint it. You got to cut it and paint it. Fortunately and unfortunately, that's going to do two things. It's going to stop it from spreading in your yard. It's also going to unalive it back to their yard because those roots are all connected to the main stuff. Unless you completely contain it and there are 0 holes in that container whatsoever, those roots are going to find the holes. They're going to look for oxygen and water. When they find that hole and there's more oxygen down there than there was in the hole, they're going to go for it. So roots and trees are advantageous. They're going to keep trying to survive and keep trying to survive. And yeah, I think you got a big problem there. But fortunately, my grandfather figured it out for me and taught me. This idiot punk kid, he calls his grandson. And and that's been the best. I've used it on so many case scenarios. Kudzu, you get that. The point, they brought kudzu over as a way of preventing like landslides from basically preventing erosion on steep slopes. And the problem is it just kept growing. Yes, it did its job. It prevented that erosion, but then it just kept going. And a lot of these bamboo plants are the exact same way. Now, they do make non-invasive bamboo, so that may be something to suggest. But if you want, I'm actually happy to help you write up an arborist report on it. Hit me up on the web at arboristonDemand.com, and we'll take a look at it, figure out what we can do. But yeah, you've got a big issue here. I'm sorry to say it. That bamboo is just going to keep becoming the bane of your going to keep being the bane of your existence. And I'm happy to write up a report. We could do it for very cheaply. Send it to them, and they'll have to comply. So you're going to have to deal with the HOA with that. But Patty, I'm happy to help where I can. So we're moving on. Thanks for the great question. Anonymous, what's up, Anonymous? You and I spoke a little bit, and I went ahead and posted you my email address, info@arboristonDemand.org. But the question was, check this out, you guys. We're going to go and watch this video because this is crazy. So neighbor's got a big old pine tree, buried root flares, tree right next to it, and they've been hiding it. They don't want the neighbor to see all that decay. So they put all these little sticks and twigs and stuff at the base there. That's not naturally occurring, guys. That's not how sticks fall. Sticks fall with gravity. And so they're going to fall straight down. They're not going to be in a nice, neat little intertwined pile like that. That's crazy. So your neighbor hates you. They're jerks, and they are they're trying to do damage. But what you need to do, and we talked about this a little bit. I'll go ahead and read off my answer. So the question was, I've experienced HOA says they will not step in unless the tree is unalived. Well, the tree is unaliving, and that could be just as hazardous or DEADLY and detrimental to your property. I've experienced and know firsthand how dangerous these pine trees can be, as my next door neighbor's pine tree fell and damaged half of my deck. Now I'm worried about this one from my backyard neighbor, but HOA won't take it seriously, claiming the tree needs to be unalived. That's not true. Because here's the thing. Structure, and Anonymous, I'll reach out to you personally because I know who you are. I have the ability to see that, and I'll keep your information disclosed. But the thing is structure is not the same as health, and health is not the same as structure. They just happened. Oh, the video worked. That's what happened. I was like, seriously, did it do something else? Sorry, Patty, we don't need to see that. Nothing personal. I'm gonna mute you. That was very loud and hurt my soul a little. My soul's up here, I think. Anyways, I've experienced. Okay, yeah. So trees falling in the past. I think that one has a decay issue as well. It looks like they may even have some vines there. But one thing I do want to point out that's really important, Anonymous, is you've got a bigger situation here. Is you see how on a normal tree it's supposed to flare out. I'll go ahead and big screen this one because this one's important. This can be a really, 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 really big problem, and I don't want you to have to deal with that, Anonymous. So on a normal tree, the base of it, even a pine, should flare out real big and bold, and that's a normal thing. And then they're just going to grow up like that. You'll have these branches that come off of it, whatever. But what yours looks like is not that. You've got one side here that kind of drops off. It looks like it may have a little bit of a flare, and then there's all those sticks and twigs and stuff there burying it. But then the other side, it kind of flares out, and then it actually juts in. That's where my big concern is for you, Anonymous, is I don't want this to be either a decay point or some sort of a girdling root that comes across there, which can have the exact same effects. It can actually unalive this whole portion, everything on this side of the roots, which can cause you get a big wind in here, and next thing you know is the tree goes kersplat right on your flipping house. Hopefully not damaging you and your family, hopefully just damaging your house, but either way it's not good. You don't want that. So I do see some sort of decay or something going on there. I can't tell specifics, but you definitely got to get an arborist report written up, sent over to them so that now they know, and if something does happen, you hold them accountable. Also, they should just do the right thing and get rid of the tree that's hazardous and threatening you and your family. That's not good. So y'all be responsible, home and tree owners. Trees are part of your home. So be responsible, guys. That's ridiculous. All right. Hope that helps. And we are moving on. Anonymous asks, can someone with more knowledgeable than me tell me what should be done with this tree? It's recommended to be taken down due to the area we live in. And since so much of it is directly over our roof, we've lived here 45 years, but it's starting to bend in several locations. It would unalive a piece of my soul removing this, but we also sleep in the room directly under the biggest truck. That's sketchy. I get that. It is infested with lanternflies every year. Spotted lanternflies, I'm assuming you mean. Those are not terrible, but they're not great. Has black on all the leaves for 3 years now. Any input is welcome. Thank you. Located in New Jersey by the shore, we do get crazy windstorms and have had hurricanes. I actually know those hurricanes and those crazy windstorms. They have what's called a nor'eastern up in the East Coast, up in New Jersey. We were in like Sparta, New Jersey, and the Sussex County was where we were in. And I remember I was in a couple of trees while we were out there, and all of a sudden you just see this massive black cloud just coming over the mountain passes, over the hills and foothills of the mountains and all that. Yeah, that's my thought is those nor'easterns come in hard and fast. And so you want to make sure. Okay. Yeah. Good advice. Yeah. The New Jersey Board of Tree Experts. So New Jersey is one of the few states, there's 7 of them here in America, that actually have regulations for tree care. If you become an arborist, you want to go into tree care, you have to get licensed. I love that because I have lost 6 friends over the years to trees because they didn't know, or they just made a bad decision or whatever happened, and they did something that ended their life. Most of, actually 5 out of those 6 had families with kids and a wife. And one of them was like 24. His girlfriend was pretty upset about it, but it doesn't matter. It's like, that's somebody's son. That's somebody's potential future husband, whatever. It's serious stuff what we do. Safety first. That's a great point. Safety first. Oops, what happened here? That's not what I clicked. Lucas, did you see me click that? That's garbage. I didn't click that. No. I'm an innocent man. Joya didn't respond. Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, she did. I clicked this. So, okay. Anonymous participant. Yeah, so somebody says, reshaping, never heard of that before. Over 40 years of experience in the tree care industry. Well, that's great. But you can do 40 years of doing it wrong. Nothing personal, Stephen. I don't know you from Adam. I don't know what you do, but reshaping is definitely an industry term. You can reduce the crown of the canopy. You can completely reduce the canopy height, and that will reshape the canopy. So yeah, that's a real term. We talk about it all the time. When you do crown reduction, you don't reshape the tree form or uniform appearance. I would say that's not the point. The point is to reduce the leverage and reduce the wind throw factors. And that's what's actually going to change the physics. And I posted a little video here. There's a guy named Ed Gilman who's done a ton of research on why trees break in storms and how to prevent it. And I took some of his video clips of some of the testing that he did and basically just gave my 2 cents on it. So yeah, Anonymous, I think you can do some structural pruning, you might want to do some pest control, integrated pest control, pest management, IPM, and see if you can suppress those spotted lanternflies. They're a pain in the butt. They replicate by the thousands. It's unreal. And you could just go from like nothing to just this complete infestation. I remember in middle school, we had this cricket infestation one year, and they would be like, everywhere you walked, you would step on a cricket in our public school. It was crazy. It was the craziest thing. So yeah. I think you're okay. It looks like what is that? Ash tree. Is that an ash tree? You might want to watch out for. No, that's a maple. Okay, what is that? Silver maple? Yeah, so silver maples are not the strongest trees out there. So you may want to like definitely cable this sooner than later, especially, we're getting into that kind of windy, rainy season in New Jersey that I remember anyways. And my wife and I went through a blizzard once there, even. It was so cool. Any idea? Okay, another anonymous. Any idea what trees I have here? I don't. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Ligustrum. I don't think that's right though, Michael. Poplar could be poplar, not popular. Poplar, Poplar. Google suggests invasive roots. Y'all stop using Google to figure out your tree problems. No, invasive roots are not really a thing. They will go into a pipe if you have a pipe break. But anonymous participant, poplar trees are very softwood and tends to snap in wind events. I would remove them. They're the type of trees you don't want near your house or any structure. That's not true, man. I got cottonwoods that are in the poplar family. Lombardy poplar is a good one. Tulip poplar is a great tree. I've seen those last for 120-year-old trees. Great trees. So Bob, I just stop, man. Eastern cottonwood. I don't think it's an eastern cottonwood. They're already 7 meters tall. It's 21 feet tall. Concerned about height too. Don't be concerned about height. Let me see. Let me see if I can pull this up, because sometimes my robots trained to figure things out when it comes to tree ID. Waxleaf ligustrum was going to be. That's not Bradford parrot. Never mind. No. My robot's being a little silly right now. Idiot. Stupid robots. Could be in the prunus. Yeah, ligustrum is kind of one thing that it's suggesting. Persimmon, it's not an elm. It could be camphor. I think ligustrum, honestly. I don't know what kind, but let's see. Hello. Okay, it's camphor, is what the robots are saying. Here's how you tell. Ooh, hold on. It's one more variable. Hold up, y'all. It's thinking. We're figuring this out. I swear. No, it's saying ash. I don't know if that's right either. Only God knows at this point, my friend. I don't think that's an ash, because you'd have an opposite leaf pattern and you just don't hear. You've got a world leaf pattern. WHIRLDED. I know I'm spending too much time on this, but I really want to know at this point. It's not poison ivy.
Looks like poison ivy.
I'm like obsessed. I'm gonna figure this garbage out. Devil's tree. Oh, that could be it. Yeah, that could definitely be it. So that's Alstonia scolaris. Is but I don't know. Tell me where you're from too, Anonymous. That might help us figure this out. But I'm wondering if Alstonius is correct. Blackboard tree. That's what it is. World phyllotaxy, 4 to 7 leaves per node, elliptical to lanceolate with a distinct pale midrib, and finely reticulated secondary veins, which is true. That's a fine. Yeah, very distinct midrib and articulated veins. Yeah, I'm wondering. I think actually that could be right. Alstonia. But that's not my area of expertise. Tree ID is not. There are guys that I know a guy that actually he memorized 1,000 scientific names nomenclature, and I was like, why? I was like, that was my question. I was like, who cares, man? That's just a bragging rights thing. All right, we're moving on. Hope that helps, man. Let's see if maybe we could figure that out. I'm gonna say Alstonia. Or Devil's Tree. Hope I'm right. Hope that helps. But let me know if that's not it. All right, we're moving on, y'all. Chelsea's asking, I'm not sure what variety of juniper this shrub is. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's fun. So Sprout, whenever we're talking, he's saying like, I know like 100, which is probably more than me, actually, to be honest. Like I know more than that trees, but when it comes to actual nomenclature, no, I don't. I don't know that. We don't ever talk about that. Like it's just not, as an industry, we will communicate that and discuss these things between us pros, but it's just really not a big deal. Who cares if you know the actual name of it? What you do need to know it on a geographically centralized basis. So like I work in Houston. Yeah, it's probably important for me to know the Houston trees, but I don't need to know every single different variety of white pine versus yellow pine versus whatever Afghan pine. I know some of those, but that's not the point. The point is it's a pine. Okay, yes, if I'm dealing with this specifically on a daily basis, I should probably know the difference. I should probably know these things. But realistically, you got 27,000 different types of trees out there. There's no way to know them all. That's just not like I know a guy that was like a memory. He actually mentored me a little bit back in the day, a guy named Ron White. Cool dude. He was in kind of some of the firewalking groups that I did back in my New Age days. And he actually memorized like I think it was like 3,600 fallen veterans for I can't remember even which war it was, but they traveled around the US and he memorized every single one of them. So he'd write them by hand as he was going along. It's like that is unbelievably cool. But that's only 3,600. You still got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times that approximately to get to 27,000. So he's not so hot when it comes to 27,000, but still world champion, holds a world record, etc. Okay, I'm sorry, Chelsea. We're getting sidetracked here. So looking for advice. That's so cool. By the way, guys, I have no idea what this is. I don't know where it came from, but apparently we have topics in this group now. I thought Lucas did it at first, but then I talked to him. I was like, hey, did you add that? He's like, no, I didn't add that. So Meta did something stupid again, and they updated things, and now we have topics. So Chelsea's looking for advice, needs advice. I'm not sure what type of variety of juniper this is. Curious how to prune and clean it up. I'd like to have a path to the walnut tree growing in the middle. Oh, that's kind of cool. Any suggestions would be great. Yes. Okay, so regarding that walnut tree, you got to keep it open. I know that's not ideal. You've got to keep it open because what will happen is that juniper will actually trap moisture against the trunk and it will keep it from being able to live. In fact, it will actually promote fungal pathogens that come in and do damage. I'm not sure exactly what type of juniper it is, but man, you may have some competing interests here that are not good. I wouldn't trim down the middle. They don't look pretty on the inside and take forever to regrow. I had junipers in over half the front yard. We pulled them all out. Just start cutting. It looks fine how it is. I think it looks fine how it is. Yeah, that's gonna be my humble opinion. I might try to move the tree in the middle there, the walnut. Those walnuts prefer like wide open spaces. Juniperus communis variation. Depressa. Oops. Maybe because in my area, those are kind of common as of a juniper shrubs. Yeah, very possible. So let me see if I can copy that. Why can't I copy that? For real? Yeah, I didn't know that. That's so cool. Maybe I'll see someone. I'm out your way sprout next week. I might have to go on some nature hikes. Actually, I'm going to be in a nature hike. In 248 trees. Just the joy. Yeehaw. Actually talked about it earlier. The native across the northern hemisphere in the form of it. Yeah, so Sprout's saying, I'm going to go ahead and type this down there because that might be actually the right answer. Whoa. Why do I have caps lock?
If you were yelling at somebody.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to yell, y'all.
That's what cat box means. You're yelling.
I leave that for my family. That's a
I get cap locks with bold letters when it comes to my apartment management.
Hey, what's up, buddy? I found your Geraldo Herrera. I found it down here at the bottom. Okay, question. Will a single trunk palm that is cut down to a flat stump die unalive completely, including the roots, and stop growing vertically plus in diameter? It is necessary for stump removal. Is it necessary for stump removal if you don't want it to grow back? No.
I hate how this is set up. I have changed it to try to meet what you had on the screen, but he's not even on my list anymore.
That's it. Nope. The way palms work, by the way, guys, is very different. Palms are actually genetically closer to a grass than they are a tree. And what that means is there's what's called meristematic tissue. So let's go to the drawing board and talk about some tree physiology here. This is a very important lesson. All y'all that want to understand trees and not just like know textbook knowledge, but actually know what you're talking about and be able to correctly diagnose and prescribe things for trees. So I'm looking at the tree from the top down and we're ignoring the canopy. We're just looking at the trunk. So there's two types of growing tissue. Now, the word is meristem. Excuse terrible handwriting, but hopefully that gets the point across. The meristem is, think of all stem cells. They're undifferentiated cells that can become anything that the tree needs. This is very, very, very important stuff to know, because what that means is if meristems, meristematic tissue, and let's say you get a damaged portion, let's say a weed whacker comes in, the lawn guy comes in, they destroy your tree. Well, here's the thing. Those meristems all along the outer layers of a normal, regular, not palmy tree. So what happens is when you get that damage, the tree actually starts forming this callus tissue around there, and it can form and continue to form all the way in all these different layers until eventually it's closed. Now the tree may be bigger, but the wound is effectively closed. You've probably seen, like, here's a live oak with like a big gap in it, and then eventually that gap that forms new tissue, until eventually you've got this kind of like scar tissue looking thing where the tree is sealed. Trees don't heal, they seal, but also they heal. That's another argument for another day. We get into it sometimes in the industry, but trees do indeed heal. That's a thing. But they're most likely, the way they deal with decay pathogens and things like that is they actually seal and they wall it off. So on a normal tissue, that's that way. On a palm, none of the meristem exists except in that little bulb where all the fronds pop off. And so if you come in here, let's say I'm Ganoderma and I'm a decay fungal pathogen and I get into the trunk. Well, here's the thing. That trunk does not have the ability to seal that wound like this live oak does. And so what happens is eventually the decay continues to eat all the way until the tree one day gets a nice small little breeze and just falls right over, hopefully not on your car or your brother or your house or whatever. And so I am not a fan of palms. We joke and refer to them as dinosaur grass in the industry. That's just a fun joke because nobody was there millions of years ago to actually tell us if dinosaurs were millions of years. We actually have found soft tissue in dinosaurs, which would not be possible under the million years theory. So I think dinosaurs walked with man thousands of years ago, but nobody cares about my opinion. Realistically, if you read the Bible, the Leviathan, what's that, Lucas?
The cartoon back in the early 90s that was people playing that rode on dinosaurs, and dinosaurs had buildings on top of them and stuff. It was fun.
That's right. Back in the 90s, back before most of you punk kids that are listening even existed. Not the personal sprout. I grew up way back in the good old days, back in 1985 was when I was born. So I'm an old head at this point, I think. But anyways, Geraldo, yes. So long story short, and answer to your question, no. The palm will not grow back if you cut it down to the base. Can it? Technically, it's possible. It's incredibly unlikely, though. So don't worry about it, man. You're probably okay. I would not worry about it if I were you. Noah probably had a couple dinosaurs. Actually, I think he did. Yeah. I think Noah had dinosaurs. I don't think they were Brontosaurus. And if they were, it was like baby Brontosaurus. I don't think if he were smart, he'd put a big giant, however many ton, my pet Brachiosaurus, Bronchiosaurus. I think Noah probably had some dinosaurs. We might call them lizards. But back then too, by the way, evolutionists believe this too. The earth was very, very different. There were much higher oxygen levels in the air. There were much higher carbon levels in the ground, et cetera, and in the air. And so plants would have done better. Dinosaurs would have been bigger. Mankind would have been stronger. Y'all think we're so stinking smart? Imagine if we had 8 times the oxygen levels in our brain, how much smarter we'd actually be. So I don't know. I wasn't there, but I do have some good historical text to go off of that said like there were giants in the land in those days and also in days after. So, but I don't know. Again, I was there. I speculate. I got a lot of questions for God Almighty when we get there. And with that tangent, we're moving on, y'all. What kind of tree is this? That's a sycamore, I believe. Maple, maybe. Oh, that's a maple. Never mind. I lied. I'm sorry. That's not trident maple, is it? No. Norway maple. You're right. Y'all are right. It's a Norway maple. What's up, Amanda Stark? Question. Hello, I have a question about our very young dogwood. Trunk between 1/4 and a 1/2 inch in diameter. That's a baby tree, isn't it? We have a basket around it, and this past summer it grew to be taller than the basket. Before we got a chance to replace it with a taller one, something came and removed our tree's leaves that just extended above the old basket. They were also the tree's only leaves. Before this happened, I was wondering if you need to cut the trunk back like an avocado tree. Do not do that. That's not good. Hold on. This is a great arborist, y'all. Hey, what's up, brother? I got you live on the live stream. Yeah, I got you live on the live stream, man. I'm going to have to go unless you want to hang out and answer people's questions. Yeah, I can hear you. Hold on. You there?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, dude. I actually meant to call and check in on you, but I gotta either, unless you want to stick around and answer people's tree questions.
Oh, shoot. I forgot to do that. They're coming up soon. I forgot that it's that time.
It is.
Oh, you later, mate.
Right on, brother. I'm glad you sound like you got a little pep in your step. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I'm back to normal.
I love it, dude. We'll talk.
Yeah, take care, Matt.
Thanks, brother. You too. We'll see you.
Bye.
All right, so that's one of my favorite arborists. He's a phenomenal arborist. His name's Neville Mann, and he was the Rice University arborist for a decade. He works with Bartlett now, but great guy, great. We'll have him on here as during our live streams one of these days. So, pharmacist. Yeah, promises. Neville and I got a lot of promises we break. Right? Yeah, it sounds terrible, man.
Well, hey, it's better to do a bad impression than no impression at all.
Yeah, isn't that appropriation or whatever? Oh, what's up, NASA? Oh, Langley. I don't know where that is. We're here in Webster. We got NASA down the street with us too. All right, so Amanda was asking, they were the only trees leave. Before this happened, I was wondering if you need to cut the trunk back like an avocado tree to promote branches, since there were none and the tree is over 24 inches tall. No, I'm a big fan of let the tree grow. Give it some ideal growing conditions, and it's going to grow accordingly to how it needs to grow. All right, so the question, I'm here with that question. The tree grew back the leaves at the top, but also several at just below the halfway point on the trunk. Should I trim off part of the top to promote the tree to grow a thicker trunk and more branches? Excuse me. Amanda, I'd say leave it alone. I would just say leave it alone. Let it grow. It's a baby tree. Baby trees are extremely resilient, and chances are you're probably okay. You don't have to worry about what's going on. But the more you mess with it, the more damage and the more potential problems you're going to have. So I would say just leave it alone. And that would be my best bet. Now, here's the other thing too. You can actually give it some extra resources. Molasses and humic acid are going to be your best friend here. And let me go find this one because this is really good stuff. Where are you? This one. Those dogwood trees. Oh, dude. Sprout. Me too, bro. What makes me wonder is what are trees going to be like in heaven? I don't know, but in the Garden of Eden, there was the tree of life. What does that mean? There was also the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which we ate from.
The leaves are going to be cloudy.
Yeah, he says the leaves are going to be cloudy, but I think that the tree of life was like a spiritual conversation. I don't know. I wasn't there. Like I said, I got a lot of questions for God Almighty. Yeah, we're not going to get into spiritual religious things, but hey, I got big plans, dude. I want to take care of that tree of life in the next life. Yeah, Sprout, that's a great question. I really like the microlife plant and soil and plant energy. That is really, really good stuff. That molasses can help it grow a little bit because you're giving resources right there at the point of entry, right there where the problem is. You're putting those energies, that sugar, which has carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen, the three most common elements that make up a tree. So yes, you absolutely can do some things. Molasses is going to be your best bet, but humates, they just do a wonderful job of feeding the beneficials as well. And again, pure carbon, bro, pure carbon. So that's a beautiful thing. Again, trees, if we were to break them down, figure out what they're made of, 45% carbon, 45% oxygen, 4% hydrogen, 3% nitrogen, less than hydrogen, by the way, which is a tiny little molecule, and way smaller than nitrogen, and like many times, like 6 or 7 times, I believe, if we're looking at a pure mass standpoint. And so, yeah. Yes, if you give it molasses or even just table sugar, if you want to get like real simple and, barbaric, if you will. So, but I like putting that actually I've seen, and I haven't tested it in like a scientific study, perspective or whatever, but it definitely, the research is there. And I personally have noticed that when you put molasses on a tree wound, it seems to heal much faster. So he's asking, my birch tree has a huge cut on it from before we moved out here, and I'm kind of scared it'll rot out. Don't be worried about that, dude. What you want to do is just reduce some of the canopy height. That'll stunt the growth. if you can get a hold of some paclobutrazol, that'll be a really good one to prevent the tree from growing outward and allow the tree to recoup and reallocate a lot of those resources towards sealing that wound. So birch trees are not great sealers, but they do okay too. All right. So Anonymous is asking, this tree has taken a lot of damage in the past few years from weather. What would be the best option for it? Will it eventually heal? Can pruning it help it live longer, or is it just beyond that? Well, first of all, you've got a tree in the middle of nowhere. You do have like this little something or other. What's that, Lucas? Okay. Yeah, you've got what looks like an old trampoline that doesn't have the tramp part, just the Olean part. It's a tramp named Olean. Oh, yeah, you got a terribly structurally. What's that, Lucas?
I knew a girl like that.
Tramp named Olean. Yeah. Oh, dude, you got it.
Just a question. If they move that trampoline and put it under, like, because it could be a good guardrail, and put it, like, in between that tree, like where the tree is in the center of that trampoline, and that way no one will step around that area to keep the soil from compacting. I mean, reuse the materials you have, right?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty decent idea. Just keep people off of it. You'd have a hard time mowing that grass around it, but if you can convert that into a mulch ring, that would be a really good idea, actually. Yeah, I'm a big fan of frugality. I think being wise with your resources is a good idea. Okay, so what I'm seeing here, Anonymous, you got a structurally decrepit tree. We're going to have to prescribe some canopy reduction, possibly some cabling and bracing type techniques. But yeah, you've got a tree that is just structurally a mess. I'm not offended by that water. The water actually creates an anaerobic condition, which suppresses the pathogenic fungi that'll decay it. But this tree has been structurally decrepit for years and years, decades even. And this is one of those that if I were looking at this 10, 20 years ago, I would have told you to do some things to train it to be structurally a much more sound tree. Unfortunately, where we're at now is we've got to deal with what we got, but you've got some serious pruning to do. And quite frankly, I would maybe even start planting something in its place, knowing that this tree is really on the decline and struggling. Oh my goodness, that so stinks too. What a gorgeous tree before it broke. I mean, still a beautiful tree, but like, come on, man. Oh, they topped that tree. I bet that's part of why. Do you see the topping marks there, Lucas? Yeah. Years ago, like 10 years ago. What happened? Yeah, that's what I was thinking, bro. Those sugar maples are pretty strong.
Look how they butchered the tree after that limb fell off.
Yeah.
You know what I would suggest now? They look like they live in an area that actually gets snow.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we were talking about before is prepping your trees before the tree before the weather changes, right? So going forward, before the snow hits, wouldn't they want to do some resource allocations with like maybe some bioorganics or pre-injections to give it some extra resources during the freeze?
Yeah.
And then also maybe even checking the soil around it to make sure it hasn't, after the freeze to revitalize the bioorganics in it.
Yeah, that's going to be a good point. You definitely want to give it some extra resources. And again, this plant and soil energy is going to be a really, really good resource for you, Anonymous. What I would say is you've got a tree that's kind of on its way out. Yes, you're in desperate need of structural pruning and cabling. I agree, Josh. So like spot on. And Kristen, great advice as always. Can you link the article you're referring to? Studies have shown that removing as little as 15% of the overall green growth from the outer edge of the canopy can reduce the likelihood of failure by up to 50%. Find an arborist that understands proper pruning. They can tell you way more to help your tree thrive, to go beyond simple pruning. Yeah, I agree. I'll send that. I'll send that to you later, Michael. Definitely would benefit from pruning. Cabling may be an option here as well. It's a big wound left by that low failed limb. Yeah, I think you got a lot going on here. Anonymous, you've got a couple things. You need to improve the health of the tree, but the main thing, even more important than that, is you've got to structurally secure that tree. Pruning is going to be your best bet, but also cabling may be an option here as well. This is one of those that, again, not trying to toot my own horn here, but you're really going to have to improve the overall structure, and that's one of those we can look at it, figure out a good pruning plan, and figure out what exactly your tree needs moving forward. But I would definitely plan on that tree maybe not being here 10 years from now. So start planning something now that can be its replacement. That was a structurally decrepit tree. So, okay, this is great. Okay, this is why we do what we do. So Debbie, let's see. Here's what's cool about owning a group. You can actually go back on history and make some connections and all that too. Debbie was asking about her tree in another post. Oh, yeah. Okay. I have a pine tree in Florida that has sap running out of the base. The tree seems healthy. Otherwise, I've been told by a tree service that it needs to be cut down, but just want to know if there's a way to save it. Okay. So here's the thing about that. I talked to her and I said, hey, check it out. You got great questions. If the tree 20 feet away has pine bark beetles, there's a likelihood they're there, at least in the beginning, to infest the tree that we were looking at in this video. You'll need to properly diagnose them first and then treat accordingly. My best bet would be probably pine bark beetles, but I'm not there looking at it. We can always do a digital consultation. We didn't do a digital consultation, but you know what she did? She clicked on this wonderful link from this wonderful blog I wrote. I'm so humble too. Where basically it's not even a real blog. It's just like I listed out all of the United States and their associated agriculture extension. And she went there, talked to the University of Florida, because I noticed some like holes in it. I can't remember where, but as I'm doing this, I'm looking to see like what's the context here. And if you notice, you got all these pitch tubes coming down here. That's usually often, I should say, pitch tubes are a sign of pine bark beetle or some sort of borer, if you will. Borer. 23 years doing trees, I still can't say that word. Borer. The beetles that get in there and they eat the inside of the tree. And anyways, so she comes back and she says, I recently found issues with a couple of our pine trees. This answers my question about their health and how to deal with it. IPS engraver beetles. Yep. That's what I suspected, and I was worried about that, and it looks like that is exactly what's going on. We've had several folks contacting us concerned about pine bark beetles. There's several species of beetles called pine beetles, with only one, the southern pine bark beetle, being one that actively goes after healthy trees. Typically, by the way, this is so true of most critters, most fungal pathogens, most borer beetles, etc. They really prefer a nice, stressed out tree because the tree's immune functions have been lowered. If y'all remember with COVID-19, not to bring up a sore subject here, but if you remember with COVID, they said, who's at risk? It's not the normal healthy people. It's the elderly and the immunocompromised. It's not even the kids. It's the elderly who are already stressed. They've had a lot of life, and you got this thing called entropy that breaks down our bodies. And you've got the immunocompromised. Now, my wife and I have Lyme disease, which is immunocompromisation, if you will. That is, our bodies are so busy fighting Lyme disease that they don't have time to fight other things. It was so funny. We got kicked out of our own family reunion because one person was having health issues and blah, blah, blah. It was a big thing. And they're like, well, you can come, but we're going to lock you outside like a dog. And I was like, well, we're not going to that. Sorry, I'm not a dog. I belong with the people, just like the people. And if y'all are scared, that's fine. So anyways, they kicked us out of our own, and we're like, my wife and I are talking, we're like, what's wrong with them? We're the ones that are immunocompromised. And then they came out months later. They said, Well, it's the immunocompromised that are at risk. It's like, we're the ones with the risk here. So is your tree. 100%. Like 9 times out of 10, if I find a fungus or a pest or something like that attacking a tree, I know for a fact that something is stressing that tree out. In fact, if you look at the very beginning of the Certified Arborist Study Guide, it says pests and pathogens, those are beetles, those are damaging insects, and those are fungal pathogens, those are bacterial pathogens, are a secondary disease. It always, almost always starts with some sort of stressor. Because if you think about it, nature's always going for the weakest link. If you're a lion, you want to go after the strong and healthy gazelle, or you want to go after the weakest link? Of course you want to go after the weakest link, the sickly, maybe the young, the ones that can't defend for themselves or that are weak and struggling, because that's an easy unalivement. That's an easy dinner versus I got to work for it. None of us want to work more than we have to, although a little hard work goes a long ways. Imamectin benzoate. Yeah. Okay. So that's a really good point. As for preventive spraying, most research shows that only one particular product, imamectin benzoate, as an injective, is effective at protecting pines from southern pine bark beetles. I will add to that in my own studies, and this is not through university, this is not an official research. I have found that a cover spray all the way into the canopy with a non-ionic surfactant / adjuvant like pentrobark will actually get in with imidacloprid, will do a wonderful job of suppressing. And I got a really good use case we did a video of. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Why is it? What the heck? No. Oh, here we go. Okay, yeah, this is the one. Yep, I found it, Lucas, our pine bark beetle pet project, if you will. Okay, so we had a client that's a cemetery, actually, and they... Yep. Michael says, yep, that's true. Very true, bro. So yeah, Debbie, I think that's maybe what's going on. I don't know. Southern pine bark beetle is not a big issue in Texas, but turpentine beetles are, and the IPS engraver beetles are a big old problem. So it sounds like southern pine bark beetles aren't an issue with you guys as well. 2 other common pine beetle species, the IPS and the black turpentine, attack stressed pines that can't defend off the beetles. To our east, where hurricanes recently went through, there's been much damage to pines from these stress-related beetles due to the wind stress. However, according to Florida Division of Forestry, the southern pine bark beetle is not spreading to any level of concern in North Florida. That means most pine bark beetle damage is occurring in stressed trees. Keep your trees healthy, y'all, and they'll take care of themselves. They've got the immune functions built right in. Thank you so much, Debbie. That was amazing. That's an amazing addition and such a great use case. And I really appreciate you saying all that, because that is just proving my point, you guys. It really is. It's just like that's what it is. And it looks like that's our last question, you guys. I think we're pretty much caught up. So y'all, thank you so much for being a part of this group. We're going to call it for the night. I got to get over to Sam's Club and get some things. And I got to spray bleach in my AC unit because it smells terrible. Brand new house, brand new AC unit, and they can't get it right. So I'm going to call and complain to my AC company, my HVAC company again, and spray some bleach in there onto the coils again, get rid of all that. Can pine trees retrench? Okay, great question. Last question, Sprout. I appreciate you sending that so quick. Just in time, buddy. Wait, can pine trees retrench? Not so much. Not as easily as a deciduous tree can, but I have seen it happen. So is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? Not so much. And maybe a good example, and it's a redwood, right? It's different. It's in the cedar family, I believe. Juniper family, cedar family. Redwoods are, or maybe that's sequoia I'm thinking of, but redwoods I have seen retrenchment on. It's very common, in fact. The pines, I've only seen it 3 times, retrenchment happen, and it's very rare. And we had to assist it along. That did not happen naturally. That was with great assistance from us. And man, it was a pain. It was a pain. It's like we just really hope everything's going to go well, and then it just looks terrible. And then we see a glimmer of hope, and then it just looks terrible. So, is it likely for pine trees to retrench? Possible. Very unlikely, though, I would say. So, unfortunately, pines are they're just built differently, and that's why they grow so fast, I think, and replicate so fast, is because they don't have some of the same survival techniques to pull from that, like a live oak or something like that does, or even a maple, or a poplar or whatever. So deciduous and pine trees, conifer trees, they're just built different. Palms, they're basically just grass. So is it possible? Yeah, likely not. But again, thank you guys so much for being here. Y'all, love doing this group with you. Love doing this little live stream that we do every Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we're really just glad to have you as a part of this group. So y'all keep up the great questions. And of course, if you need help with your trees and need a closer look, I'm happy to hop on a digital arborist consultation. We could do that right from these guys here over at the Arborist On Demand, the world's first 100% digital tree care consulting firm. And you can find us right here at arboristondemand.com. And we can do this basically anywhere you are in the world. So love you guys. And thanks again for being here. We'll see you next Tuesday. Y'all have a great week and a great weekend. And God bless, guys. We'll see ya.